Chapter 65 Beyonder Information. With a document signed by Dunn, Klein went underground and turned into the armory. Dunn is right. It's time you understand the different Beyonders and the various secret organizations. Dressed in a black classic robe, old Neil read the note without finding it surprising. Instead, he supported the captain's decision. He then added immediately with a smile, "After all, you will be heading to the underground market with me tomorrow night." Tomorrow night? Klein did not conceal his pleasant surprise as he asked to confirm. Old Neil nodded and said with a sigh, "I'm a person who can't sleep when in debt. I always wish to settle them as soon as I can. You did not seem to act so previously. You left it to the last moment before using ritualistic magic to resolve the problem. So, I'm not the only one suffering from procrastination weight. Is there a need to euphemize, afraid to spend away the money to repay a loan?" Klein did not expose old Neil and instead urged, "Mr. Neil, it'll be troubling you to retrieve the corresponding information from Janus Gate. There were mostly archaeological and historical documents in the armory. There were documents involving Beyonders and mysterious organizations, but few in number. Furthermore, they were mostly basic knowledge." Old Neil slowly took a sip from his hand-ground coffee and smacked his lips. He then walked out the armory with a signed and stamped document. Klein watched the place on his behalf. About 10 minutes later, old Neil returned with a huge stack of documents. "They can only be read in here. They are not to be taken out," he warned as he placed the information on the desk. "All right," Klein gave a firm nod. He extended his hands and quickly flipped through the pages and did a general read-through. Very detailed, as expected of the Nighthawk's internal documents. As expected of a church with 4,000 years history, or even more. Klein sighed inwardly as he glanced through the documents. Not only did the documents introduce the various secret organizations, it also listed down many of the sequence pathways. It was very complete. Some of them only wrote the potion name of the corresponding sequence, while others only described the Beyonder abilities of the corresponding sequence. Some were completely missing and left blank. While holding back his excitement, Klein found the sequence pathway that led from Seer. He ruffled through the pages and soon found a familiar word. Then, his delighted expression quickly froze, because there was no corresponding potion name sequences 7 and 8 after Seer. Thankfully, the abilities of the two following sequences are present. Klein silently exhaled as he calmed his mind and read the description seriously. Sequence 8, Potion Name Unknown. The corresponding Beyonder is good at fighting with artifice and very crafty. Good at fighting with artifice? This is the next advancement of Seer. Why does it feel odd? I'm not a hunter. Am I going to become a melee mage? What does crafty mean? My intelligence is enhanced, making me good at fooling the enemy. Klein was stunned. He even suspected that the Nighthawk's information was wrong. There were corresponding case studies appended, but he could not find a reasonable explanation despite reading it repeatedly. He cast his gaze lower as the description of Sequence 7 entered his eyes. Potion Name Unknown. The corresponding Beyonder is good at many spells that can be quickly cast, fuses one's body skill and supernatural powers as one. That's more like it. This is what an advancement of a Seer should sound like. Klein heaved a sigh of relief. After seeing the case studies of Sequence 7, he cast his eyes to the overall description of the pathway. This sequence pathway was first established by the Solomon Empire's Zeridal family. During the conflicts of the Fourth Epoch, the family was not fully destroyed. The family's name was occasionally heard in the history of the Fifth Epoch. It is suspected to be connected to the ancient organization, the Secret Order. Zeridal? Upon seeing this name, Klein's eyes constricted. He had just seen this name appear in the remnant diary pages of Emperor Roselle yesterday afternoon. Roselle's acting came from a reminder by the mysterious figure known as Zeridal. Because of that mysterious Zeradal, Emperor Roselle regretted not choosing seer? Therefore, I was indirectly influenced, turning me into a seer. It makes acting return to the embrace of the seer. It feels like it was all predestined. Klein whereupon his brows and felt that things were somewhat different. Just from the logical chain, he did not feel that there was anything wrong in any aspect. However, in the domain of mysticism, predestiny often manifested things and involved new problems. In addition, transmigration is quite a baffling matter. It's just confusing, and the guy I've possessed tried to commit suicide. Because of the lost notebook of the secret order, Klein thought for quite a while and had many guesses, but lacked the information needed to prove them. Few after repeatedly reading the information, he finally suppressed his ideas and read the other records. He first found the sailor sequence and discovered that it indeed belonged to the Lord of Storms. For an old opponent that they haven't faced for perhaps more than 2,000 to 3,000 years. The Nighthawk's internal records were rather detailed. Sequence 8, Folk of Rage. Ancient Namaguardian of the Windstorm. The corresponding Beyonder can release several strikes that exceed ordinary thresholds when enraged. Their strength and speed are greatly enhanced. Facing them is like facing a storm. Sequence 7, Seafarer. Ancient Namelin Storm Priest. The corresponding Beyonder is also a scholar of astronomy and geography. They have an intuitive grasp of magnetic fields, ocean currents, wind direction, and clouds a boat with a seafarer will never get. Lost at sea, they are even more beloved by the oceans and gain enhancements in every aspect at sea. They are friends of water. They can act freely underwater. For more than half an hour, they can cast a limited number of water-related spells. Some are a result of their own capabilities, and some are a bestowment from the Lord of Storms. For example, a Sequence 7 Seafarer is very powerful. Klein nodded while in deep thought. He suspected that the Hanged Man was a guardian of the windstorm, if not a seafarer. From how he has recently advanced, it was more likely he was the latter. This also indicated in a way that the Hanged Man was either a member of the mandated Punisher, or a pirate who had been secretly absorbed by the Church of the Lord of Storms. Impressive. Klein flipped back a few pages and found the advancement of Spectator. He discovered that the description was identical to what the Hanged Man had said. Sequence 9 Spectator was like a seer. They lacked direct combat means and could only observe a target to obtain information, gleaning the true thoughts of the target. By doing so, they could provide subtle influences and guidance to cause situations to develop in a way they wish. Sequence 8 Telepathic was the advancement of Spectator. Their observation was not only limited to superficial details, but deeper into one's aura, ether body, or other mysterious domains. The combination of the two allowed a telepathic to precisely understand a person's thoughts, as though they could read their minds. In front of them, it was difficult to have any secrets. Sequence 7 South Psychiatrist, which was also known as Psyche Analyst, had further enhancements above the Sequence 8 foundations. They could begin directly influencing a target. For instance, they could treat a target's maniacal problems, or alternatively, cause them to turn maniacal and lose their reason. A Beyonder that is very difficult to be noticed. After reading the description, Klein made a reasoned judgment. After understanding the relevant information concerning the gathering members, he flipped to the Church of the God of Steam and Machinery. This was because Emperor Roselle had chosen their Savant sequence. Sequence 9, Savant. The corresponding Beyonder believes that knowledge is power. They have a rough understanding of the supernatural, but are more knowledgeable about aqua regia, nitroglycerin, and complicated bolts and gears. They seem to know everything. It is no wonder that the Emperor Roselle said that this potion suited him perfectly. Allowing for him to press his advantage to the fullest, Klein understood completely as he shifted his eyes down. After several case studies, the corresponding Sequence 8 finally appeared in Klein's vision. Archaeologists, they possess a good deal of knowledge about history and outdoor survival, as well as forbidden knowledge about ruins. They have a strong enough body and ability to face everything. Sequence 7. Appraiser. They can intuitively understand the powers and problems of most extraordinary items, and can use them while keeping danger at its lowest. As Klein's security clearance was insufficient, he only had access to sequence pathways up to 7. It left him a little frustrated, but there was no other way around it. He only wished that Backlund would quickly send over the sealed artifact to 049 to determine if Ray Bieber was a descendant of the Antigonus family. That way, he would have a chance of becoming a formal member and obtain a higher security clearance. Collecting himself, Klein read the material seriously from cover to cover. He knew that the sequences following Corpse Collector were Gravidigger and Spirit Medium. He also knew that there was no information about the sequence 8 of the Mystery Prior Path. Not only was there no name for the potion, but even the description had been left blank. There was a name for sequence 7 of that path, Warlock. Sounds impressive. Klein slowly flipped the page and saw Apprentice and Marauder, which Emperor Roselle had lingering thoughts for. Their records only reached sequence 8 and nothing more. Read latest chapters at wuxiworld.site only. Sequence 9. Apprentice. Their abilities are rather strange. It can only be confirmed that this is the originating pathway of a midge. They are rarely trapped and very difficult to be stopped. They often are able to escape and pass through obstacles every time. Sequence 8. Trickmaster. They wield all kinds of strange but impotent spells. Sequence 9. Marauder. Difficult to separate these Beyonders from ordinary bandits or thieves. Perhaps the means available to them are more impressive, but their goal of stealing riches is not for enjoyment or survival. It's more like answering a calling. Sequence 8. Sequencers. We have also discovered traces of Beyonders in fraud investigations. They gain enjoyment from swindling. This is acting in a different form, isn't it? If I had the choice, I might have chosen Apprentice. Klein silently said to himself. Suddenly, he discovered the corresponding sequence potion of the culprit of the Alfalfa tragedy, Tresinstigator.